So, far away Lucas. Doctor Octopus, thoughts?
Afred Molina's coming back, apparently.
Fucking hell. You know, I'm something of a working actor myself. So, far away Lucas, as you often do, would you like to let the lovely audience at home know what the topic of today's Wiki Weekends is?
So, I wanted to talk about Otto Octavius, but apparently he's fucking Spider-Man. And then it just said, let's talk about Otto Octavius' duplicate, who's actually Doctor Octopus.
So I'm a big fan of comics in general, but I don't read them all, and I was aware that at some point Otto Octavius became Spider-Man, and that's just a weird thing that happened for a while. So when we tried to find the wiki entry for Doctor Octopus, it just says Spider-Man, and we've already done Spider-Man, so instead we're actually technically talking about Otto Octavius' duplicate, who is just Otto Octavius.
Comic books, Karl.
Comic books, and we'll start as we often do at the beginning with the biographical information of Otto Octavius' duplicate, who for all intents and purposes is just him. So, real name, Otto Gunther Octavius. Man, that's a rough name. That is like playground just catnip right there, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
There's so much to make fun of in all of that. And current alias, Doctor Octopus, and then we have aliases, Doc Ock, which I love. I love it. Doc Ock's so simple, so clean. And I love the idea that one of Spider-Man's greatest villains is just another guy with 8 arms.
Yeah.
Spider, 8 arms, octopus. The symbolism writes itself.
The thing is, though, I'm really annoyed that he isn't called Doctopus.
Doctopus. That's so good, and I've never thought of that, and I'm really mad that I didn't. So, other aliases include the Living Brain, the Master Planner, Spider-Man, Superior Octopus, Superior Octopus is fucking great.
That sounds amazing.
What are you? I'm the Superior Octopus. I don't want to fight that. Relatives, Otto Octavius, and this is how you know it's comics, because he's his genetic and mental template, which just is comic code for he is the same character. He's just the same character, but we were bored of not having Spider-Man fight Otto Octavius.
Yeah.
And then we have a base of operations, and it's just a couple of universities, and then we have here the Transamerica Pyramid. I don't know what the Transamerica Pyramid is, but I'm curious. And then we have status, identity, secret identity. Is it really? He's a clone of one of the most well-known fucking villains of all time, who walks around without a mask on and calls himself Doctor Octopus. Citizenship, American. Marital... wait, do clones have citizenship?
I don't know.
Are they technically born? Anyway, you know what? That's a matter for the courts to decide. Marital status, single. This is one that I like. Marital status of the original Doctor Octopus, he marries Aunt May in one comic book. And Spider-Man's super salty about it.
Yeah.
It's great. Occupation, adventurer, professor, scientist, vigilante, former criminal, government agent, terrorist. And then education, he's got the duplicate mind of Otto Octavius, who has one of the keenest minds in all of Marvel. Besides, the super big brain guys like Modok and Reed Richards and all those lot. We have characteristics, male, height, 5'9", weight, 245 pounds, so he's a bit fat, which I love about Doctor Octopus, that he's not a physical threat.
No,
it's that Lex Luthor thing. I'm going to put my coffee down there, so I'm afraid I'm going to spill it. But it's that Lex Luthor thing where he doesn't need to be a physical threat to be a threat to the hero. And we have origin. He is a human clone, a copy of Otto Octavius' consciousness implanted into his clone body, formally implanted into the new ultimate cloned body known as the proto-clone. What is comic books? I fucking love comic books. And now, as we often do, we're going to read a quote from the character themselves. This is a quote from Otto Octavius' clone, who for all intents and purposes is the character, but he's speaking here as the clone. Then I shall endeavour to exceed your expectations. Let others settle for greatness. I will strive to be superior.
Oh,
that's really good. And Lucas, just thoughts on Doctor Octopus, or Doctopus if you will.
I really like him, and as you said, the idea that somebody is super intelligent instead of a physical threat, I've always enjoyed, because it gets across that Peter Parker side of him.
Yes, because Peter Parker's one of his greatest strengths, besides the fact he's Spider-Man, is his ingenuity and his grit. And you can argue that Doctor Octopus has the same thing. And just for a moment, let's talk about the only live-action portrayal we've had of the character so far. and that is Afred Molina, because fucking hell, did he gnaw on that scenery. Like, I'm pretty sure if you watch the behind-the-scenes shooting of Spider-Man 2, you can see him just seasoning all the props to gnaw on them later in scenes, because fucking hell, is that guy just going ham, and I love it. I love it so much. I love how much you can tell Afred Molina was just having fun.
Yeah, the power of the sun in my hands.
Yeah, or like the train fight, which is still yet to be topped in any comic book movie.
Oh, it's great.
Where it's just, I'm afraid you have a train to catch, and just, whoa!
You have a train to catch.
One of the things I like about that movie is the way Doctor Octopus moves when he has his tentacles, because it does look like an octopus, where it's like just the arms are writhing around, they just drag him along, like in a very fluid and yet deliberate way. And the games get that across as well, specifically like Spiderman Ps4, where we've played that game multiple times, both of us, like separately and together. Lucas, does that Doctor Octopus go through the quickest heel turn in fiction?
Possibly, yeah, of all time.
So for people who may not have played that game or may not remember the story, Lucas, just want to just clarify what that Doctor Octopus starts like in the game.
Yeah, so he's kind of I guess a troubled scientist, and he's a very, very nice man who is trying to make artificial limbs to A, help other people and progress science, but B, it turns out he has a debilitating illness where his body is destroying itself, but his mind is staying intact.
And partway through the story, he decides that he doesn't want to build prosthetic limbs that replace human limbs. He wants them to surpass what human limbs are capable of. And he builds the octopus arms during the course of the story. But at some point, he just snaps because he doesn't like Norman Osborn and just releases a pandemic on New York. And it's like, wait, what? And it happens in like one scene. It's one scene for him to go from, I will build robot spider legs for soldiers injured in war, to fuck all of New York, I hate Norman Osborn.
When you're casting your vote, remember what I've done. We are all safer now than we have ever been.
Liar!
You have no idea what you're in for.
Anyway, so let's get back to Otto Octavius in the comic books, maybe his powers and abilities. And we'll begin with the power grid, which people who do not know is a ranking system for Marvel characters from 1 to 7. 1 being an ordinary human, 7 being nigh godlike in that specific regard. And for Otto Octavius, everything seems to be in order with the exception of intelligence and durability. Because intelligence is a 5, which is very smart, but not as smart as I thought Doctor Octopus would be.
Yeah, it's not, I should say, godlike levels of intelligence where you would imagine he's up there as one of the smartest people in Marvel, but apparently not quite.
Yeah, that's around the same level as Spider-Man, but I figured he'd be up there with Reed Richards and stuff, but no, he's not. And then we have durability is a 7, which basically means he's indestructible.
What?
I want to know what's going on there. Because that means he's had the same durability as a character like the Hulk, and he is, for all intents and purposes, an ordinary human man, albeit a clone.
With some legs, yeah.
And then his energy projection is a 6, which is like up there with characters like Iron Man. So let's find out what's going on, shall we? Powers. So Otto has the same powers as the original Doctor Octopus. So presumably Doctor Octopus always had these abilities. So we have here cybernetic tentacles. And I love the tentacles. They're so fucking cool.
I just love that scene where he first becomes Doctor Octopus in Spider-Man 2, and they just go on that just brutal murder spree.
Yeah, he fucking kills everybody like lying down. Doctor Octopus's superhuman capabilities derive from the 4 mentally controlled, electronically powered, telescoping, prehensile titanium steel tentacles attached to a stainless steel harness encircling his body. Man, that's a sentence. Each tentacle, approximately 5 inches in diameter, terminates in 3 single-jointed pincers. The pincers are capable of rotating in relation to the arm for 360 degrees in a screwdriver-like twisting motion, which sounds awesome, but doesn't explain why he's so fucking OP. It says here that the motors get their power from a small nuclear-powered thermoelectric generator, which can generate several hundred watts per hour for up to 5 years before needing to be replaced. They have been upgraded since the initial accident to include high-efficiency battery packs, In the event that Octopus loses consciousness, the control module in each arm has enough pre-programmed conditional responses in its memory chip to enable it to perform a relatively complex sequence of actions, such as saving his life. And the ultimate example of that is in the arc Spider-Man Reign, I believe, and that's the infamous one where Spider-Man breaks down in tears on Mary Jane Watson's tombstone because he killed her with his radioactive spider jizz. That's a real thing that happens in that comic. And Doctor Octopus's corpse is walking around with his tentacles.
Oh, no.
Because the tentacles are still active, so his corpse is being carried around by the tentacles, and it's so fucking depressing. The trauma of his arms being separated from the harness causes a period of disorientation in which his arms flail about uncontrollably. Yeah, that's kind of scary. It's like wacky, wavy, arm inflatable tube man. And the powers linked to his tentacles include technopathic tentacle manipulation. God, like, let's pull back the curtain on this. That's the one term I read, and when we're doing Doctor Octopus, I read technopathic tentacle manipulation. Went, this is it. This is the article we're doing today. Octopus can control the actions of his arms psionically, even when they've been severed from his body, and they are separated from him by a vast distance. A distance of 900 miles has been recorded. That's terrifying. So Doctor Octopus can be sat 900 miles away and still kick your ass with his super tentacles.
He can just sit at home and send them after you.
Yeah, telescoping. Each tentacle is approximately 6 feet long, but at full contraction can extend to a maximum length of 24 feet. That's not explaining why he's as durable as the Hulk. Superhuman striking force. Each tentacle is capable of moving at a speed of 90 feet per second and can strike with the force of a jackhammer. Lucas. High wind generation. The tentacles can generate 50-mile-an-hour winds if spun like a giant fan. Where was that in the Raimi movie? Wall climbing and travelling. By combining the intrinsic strength of both his tentacles and pincers, Dr. Octopus can scale stone, brick, or concrete walls by rending handholds in the surface. He is able to use his tentacles for traversing horizontal distance as well. At full extension, he can travel high above the ground as if on stilts, either using 2 tentacles or for maximum speed, approximately 50 miles an hour, 4 tentacles. So Dr. Octopus can move at 50 miles an hour with those things.
But Karl, he could just get a giant fan below his feet and move at 50 miles an hour anyway.
I want to see that. I want to see him like parasailing with the force generated by his own fans. Sensation feeling. Lucas, we've got to continue. Although there are no nerve endings throughout the length of his artificial arms, Octopus can feel basic sensations with them. As a result of the mutagenic changes from exposure to radiation and during the accident, electrical connections have been made from his chest harness to his spine. Thus, Dr. Octopus can mentally perceive tactile sensations by feeling the amount of electrical resistance that the pincers generate on their motors. So he can feel things with his tentacles.
Why would you want that?
I don't think they hurt him. It said here that when they get severed from his body, he doesn't feel pain. He's just disorientated.
I think there's quite a few different characters where they have things like armor or suits, and they programmed it so they can feel the pain the armor does. It's like, why would you ever do that?
Superhuman concentration. Dr. Octopus possesses extraordinary mental capabilities, and through years of practice is able to perform 2 complex and 2 simple independent actions simultaneously, one with each arm. So he can perform 4 different actions at once with each of the arms, 2 complex, 2 simple. So he can make himself a coffee, read the paper, and then simultaneously invent like a time travel machine. Oh, here we go. So living brain. So this is where he became something called the living brain. So as the living brain, Otto had these powers, superhuman strength. As the living brain, Otto was able to analyse the strength of Spider-Man's webbing, decide how much pressure to apply, and then ploughed right through it. Superhuman durability. While stored within the living brain, Otto was able to withstand multiple energy attacks from Parker Industry SWAT bots.
I don't know what that is, but does Spider-Man make himself an army?
He probably does. I think the story is when Dr. Octopus takes over Spider-Man, he realises Spider-Man's a fucking moron. Why does he live in poverty? He's a genius, and he just uses his genius to make Parker Industries, which within the space of like 3 years rivals Tony Stark's. Self-repairing systems. Otto's body, while his mind was hosted by the living brain, was able to use the nanites stored in himself to repair his body when he was damaged. So there it is.
Ah, okay.
He's got nano machines, son. And then superior Spider-Man. Oh god, we've already done Spider-Man 3 times. Let's try and skip past this, shall we? We've done Spider-Man like 4 or 5 times now.
Yeah, because I'm assuming he just has the powers of Spider-Man.
It says here that abilities seemingly those of the original Otto Octavius, which I'm not going to click on because I've got to scroll through all that Spider-Man shit again. So strength level class 10, so that's lifting about a ton. So they're not explaining why he's so durable. I guess it's just because his brain was inside a robot and he can't technically die if his brain is stored inside it, maybe. Weaknesses, arrogance. On many occasions, Otto's pride has been a major factor in his many defeats. Wow, that's rough. He's a clone. Does that mean, does the clone technically have the win-loss record of the original?
Or does he start fresh?
Otto considers himself to be the smartest person on the planet, not according to his power grid. And that he could never be wrong due to his, and I quote, massive intellect.
Oh, God, no.
This confidence in his own intelligence frequently causes him to ignore factors that could derail his plans, leaving him unprepared for when these factors come into play, like Spider-Man.
Well, what I don't get is that he considers himself the smartest person on the planet, but you know who else is? Spider-Man, because he's the same person as you.
Pill dependence. In order to prevent his clone body from breaking down, caused by a flaw in the Jackal's cloning process. I would not trust a clone made by a guy called the Jackal. Otto has to ingest a pill provided by him every single day. Currently, this weakness no longer applies after he managed to implant his mind and consciousness into the proto-clone that was immune to degeneration.
Oh, okay.
And then trivia. Octavius is an atheist. Yeah, I'm not surprised. A fucking clown. If he believes in God, then he definitely doesn't have a fucking soul.
Yeah, they cloned his mind as well. Not just his body, but his actual mind and personality.
And the final one is, Otto's former alias, Elliot Tolliver, has a meaning that reflects his egomaniac personality. Elliot is the Greek form of the Hebrew name Elijah, which means Jehovah is God. This refers to how Otto considers himself superior, sometimes exhibiting a, and I quote, God complex. Tolliver is the English form of the Italian family name, Taliaferro, which itself derives from tagliere, to cut, and ferro, iron. This name was often used as a nickname for metal workers or a fighter. This refers to both Otto's intellect for engineering as well as his fighting skills, thanks to Peter Parker's genes. It's like, can he really consider them his own fighting skills if he learned them from Spider-Man?
Yeah.
You know what? No, Luke's going to end on this one instead because it contains a sentence I don't understand and never want to find out what it means because it's too stupid. Despite the time he was a partial clone of Spider-Man, Otto was not considered to be a spider totem.
A what?
I don't know what... Lucas, there's no blue text there. We don't know what spider totems are. Fuck it. God, comic books are the best.